Now that we've passed Thanksgiving as the first key benchmark in the NHL season, I want to take some time to talk through some of the early season surprises and what the underlying metrics say about those teams. I'm not going to talk about every team in this video. For example, the Islanders could probably justify a video of their own, but I did want to talk through 5 of the teams that I've found the most surprising so far. To start with, we're going to look at the Rangers and Canadiens. The Rangers were a team that everybody thought could take a step forward this year, but I don't think many people were expecting the step forward that they saw early in the season. Meanwhile, the Canadiens probably got carried to a little bit of a lucky run to the Stanley Cup last year, but nobody saw the downturn that we've seen early in the year from them. When we look at the side by side, though, we see that the Canadiens have been a better possession team than the Rangers and have been far better at generating scoring chances, or at least having the higher proportion of scoring chances in their games. However, the Rangers have been stronger at converting those scoring chances into goals. The key part of that really is the 5 versus 5 save percentage, where the Rangers have been much better. Carey Price might fix that if and when he gets back to the Canadiens, but his Stanley Cup run is really last year really masked that he has been on the downturn for a while. For the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin is possibly the best goalie in the league already, but they really have been depending on him to carry them throughout this season, and I don't know if that's a real strategy going forward that can keep them in the playoffs. They also need some better backup goaltending. Georgiev has really stepped down every year, and they're going to need him to really fill in at a stronger pace if they want to be successful going forward. The last thing I mentioned here is that the other piece is the Rangers have the much stronger power play. That is the one area of this that I think is sustainable just based on the offensive talent that they have in there. So when you look at these overall, I think you would expect these teams to have roughly equal records if you factor in the save percentage and power play, or maybe the Canadiens to be the better team with the stronger possession numbers and scoring chances. But what we really see is a pretty drastic difference in records, with the Rangers being the much stronger team so far. Ultimately, I don't think the Canadiens, even with the turnover we're seeing in the front office, can turn this around to be a playoff team this year. But the Rangers, at the same time, I think could hold on with the points they've generated so far, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them fall out as well. Moving on to the Red Wings, who I think have been one of the most pleasant surprises early in the year, even if that's fallen off a bit recently. And I think some of it is that they were generating their early success in unsustainable ways. So as you can see, they're bottom 10 in possession numbers, scoring chances, and high danger scoring chances. And they had some unsustainable shooting percentages so far this year. Tyler Bertuzzi shooting 23%, Dylan Larkin 18. Bertuzzi has had some fairly decent shooting percentage numbers in the past, but nowhere near 23. And Larkin's never been close to an 18% shooting percentage in his career. I think one of the things that stands out for the Red Wings as this not being sustainable going forward is that they do have a negative goal differential. And what's interesting about that is when you look at their wins, they've been pretty evenly distributed. So what I mean by that is same number of 1-goal wins versus 2 versus 3, which typically would indicate a team that maybe isn't getting extremely lucky. Losses are predominantly blowouts, and that tells me that this is a team that can't sustain this level of success going forward. Obviously, the Blackhawks have had much more important issues off the ice, but what I wanted to focus on here is just everything that's gone on the ice this year to lead to them being one of the worst teams in the league. They had a really weird offseason, offloading some pieces. They definitely looked like they were in a rebuild last year, but then going out and signing Marc-Andre Fleury and making some other moves that looked like they were panicking and trying to compete now, and it really just hasn't worked. They're last in Fenwick, and then second to last in both Corsi and scoring chances, just not generating anything. They don't have any depth scoring. They've only got 3 players in double-digit points so far this year. That's just not a sustainable way to generate your offense. And then Fleury has been better lately, but he was really poor early on. He's actually, when you look at it now, he's better against scoring chances than he was last year in his great season. But he has struggled a bit against the shots that typically wouldn't be generated as scoring chances. And that leads to him being only 38th overall in save percentage. With the turnover in the front office, I expect Chicago's going to need to go into a full rebuild at this point. I think they really panicked, and it just hasn't worked out. Finally, the Avalanche, who haven't been poor this season, but haven't been the really strong team that everybody was expecting. Yeah, some of that is definitely due to illness and injury, so it's hard to um, worry about it too much. But when we look at it, the underlying numbers, I think what really stands out is this has been a really strong possession team. They allow the second fewest shots against them in the league, but Darcy Kemper's only got a 903 save percentage. So I think when you look at that at face value, it looks like a team that is doing everything it can and is being let down by the goalie. And to an extent, that's true. I took a couple screenshots from a game earlier against the Blues, and two of the goals that they generated or gave up. One, this Pareko shot from the point. Kemper can see it all the way. There's no traffic. Maybe he's worried a little bit about a tip in front, but there's really no way a shot from the blue line with no traffic should be going in, but in this case it did. So you can definitely see there are some areas where Kemper needs to step up more. But at the same time, later in the game, you see this opportunity where maybe they're not giving up shots, but nobody's defending the winger on the backside here. It turns into an easy goal that you can't really blame Kemper for. Um, I think the Avalanche will clean things like that up, and I think Kemper's going to be better. I'm not concerned about them going forward, and I do think this is a playoff team and a Stanley Cup contender once we get to the playoffs.